back to Lex Reads. So in today's video, we actually are doing another read a book in one day. I think the last time I did this, it was like a month ago, and it was like a lighthearted book. I believe it was a Black romance. But for this one, I'm so excited because first of all, it's by one of my favorite authors of all times, and it's one of my favorite books of all times. And that book and that author is Bernice L. McFadden, Praise Song for the Butterflies. This book, it got me back into reading. I was never a reader like growing up at all. Like the first time I read a book on my own, I was 14 years old. I always had problems with basically reading, you know what I mean? I always saw it as a chore, and then I really did, like I say, had problems with reading. I honestly could not read a book. And then when I got a little bit older, obviously my aunts, my grandmother, teachers worked with me, and I was able to start reading on my own. And yeah, but stopped reading for years. And then I got back into reading Way to Grieve in like 2017, 2018, basically 2018. And at first, what I started doing is I'm like, it was still hard for me to read a physical book because I hadn't done it in years. And what I did is I started getting audiobooks. And this book came up, and it was written in 2018. So yeah, not only is just like just a favorite of mine, this also introduced me to African literature because this book is set in a fictional African, village. And I remember saying, I said, this is so good that, I mean, a Black American wrote this. I said, you know what? I want to see like how like an authentic African, writer like tells a story. And from then on, been hooked on African literature. I always tell you guys, they're such great storytellers. They're also, for me, if I'm in a reading slump, I pick up an African author, get me out that reading slump. They just know how to tell great stories. And for some reason, I tend to read the second part of the book. Well, actually listening to the second part of the book. And I haven't read the beginning part since 2018. Okay, so it's been some years. Let me give you a synopsis. This is set in a fictional West African village named Ukembe. You have a young girl named Obeah Kata. Obeah is 9 years old when the book starts. She lives with her stay-at-home mom. Her dad works for the government. I believe she's gonna have a little brother. And life is really good, privileged girl. But then life kind of gets hard financially for the parents. And they're like, just going through it. Okay, they barely can eat. Obeah's grandmother on her father's side says, you're going through all of this financial struggle. You're going through all this struggle in general. For us to alleviate this situation, you need to put Obeah in a shrine. And he does that, and that's it. Now, a shrine, it's basically, it's slavery. Called a religious shrine where in West Africa, you have something called religious servitude, or where you pick a family member, where a family member pays for your sins. And it can be sins like fornication, adultery, theft. And in this case, they picked an innocent 9-year-old girl, Obeah, and this is not a spoiler. So Obeah goes through all that. 15 years later, she is rescued. You see her basically trying to navigate the world. And also too, with the religious shrines, that's actually a real thing. Like that still goes on in present day. And it's actually supposed to be, it's illegal, it's supposed to be abolished, but it still goes on. Yeah, that's basically the gist of this story. It's heavy, it honestly is, but when I tell you, it's just, Bernice's writing is unbelievable. I've read all of her fictional books, have all of them, and every story that she writes is totally different. This is totally different than her debut novel, Sugar. Okay, and we all know Sugar Lacey, that's a character you cannot forget. It's different from the Book of Harlan. That's another favorite of mine. I mean, I can just go on and on. So yeah, so we are reading this today. I also have it on audio, and Robin Miles is narrating it, and it's fantastic. I mean, Robin Miles, fantastic narrator. I mean, she can read Batman and make it sound so good. She's just that good. Now, I wanted to get, this is the first copy I have. I wanted to get a second copy because I wanted to like highlight it and, tab it. And I went on thriftbooks.com to get a second copy, right? Girl, why was I, and look what came. an advanced reader copy. When I tell you I was so angry when I opened this package this Friday, on the website it literally said pray song for the butterfly. It tells you the conditions. I picked good condition, put it in my cart, paid for it, and they gave me this. I can't do nothing with this. I don't like advanced reader copies at all because of course it's not going to be the complete version. So I was very upset when I got this. I said, well, girl, just chalk it up. Only spent $7, so that's fine. Because if I would have spent more, I probably would have returned this. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this, but I do have this copy, and I'm just gonna highlight and annotate it, and then I'm gonna order a copy from Amazon. I'm probably gonna order the hardcover copy, and then knowing me, order another copy because again, this book is just so. I love it. Okay. Y'all know me with multiple copies of books. If I love the book, I will get multiple copies. And I have several books where I have 2 to 3 copies. Girl, it's just, yeah. So this one I'm going to be highlighting, annotating. Also, too, I know in the second portion of this book, I did highlight a little bit, but it's, y'all, but I wanted to get another copy because I don't like, y'all know I don't like to use, I don't know if you can see it, but it's like that neon yellow highlighters. I don't like to use that anymore. I like to use like neutral colors, you know, like these that I get from Amazon. But it's okay. It's okay. Also too, I had this tab, but I took the tabs out because they don't match anymore. And y'all know I have to have tabs that match. So got my tabs ready to match the book. And yeah, we are going to be reading this.
And it focuses on Tricosi, which is ritual servitude or religious servitude. And I think that it's an important story because basically at its foundation, it's slavery. And I wanted to write about Tricosi because it was something that I was unaware of, and I'm sure there's a whole population of folk who don't even know this exists.
Okay, so I am reading this part, which I totally forgot about. So you remember, guys, how I was telling you about Obeo's grandmother. Her husband just died, so they moved her to their house, and Obeo's family, they're like really wealthy. And the mom and the grandmother is like, she's lived a very modest life. I mean, you know, she lived in a hut, raised her children in there, so she's not used to things like, you know, cooking inside, having like a stove or like a freezer. She complains about everything. I mean, everything. Another annoyance for grandmother was the house girl Ismay had hired to cook and clean for the family, Bimbi. Sweet and quiet, Bambi wasn't the best cook or cleaner, but she was company to Obeo. Grandmother's silence and cold, hard gaze raised the fine hairs on the back of Bambi's neck. I don't trust her. She has the fingers of a thief. She cleans like a blind woman. You call that jollof? I call it pig slop. So she's just complaining, okay? It's like, girl, you living there for free. They're willing to take you in, okay? Grandma getting on my nerves. She is getting on my nerves. Here go grandma again, look. One day, a few weeks after grandma arrived, Ismay came wobbling in the house, supported by her husband and a pair of crutches. Grandma spat. That is what happens when you wear those awful high-heel shoes. I go up and down these stairs at least once a week. How I missed the last step, I don't know. Thank God I wasn't carrying agua. Grandmother studied the cast. How long will you have that thing on your leg? She asked, running her fingers across the hardened plaster. The doctor said 6 weeks. 6 weeks, grandmother responded with a huff. Yes. Mother shrugged, turned and walked into the kitchen, mumbling about high-heeled shoes and tight skirts. Okay, so it is currently 3:13. I read for a good 30 minutes. Y'all know I take breaks when I, you know, do a book in a day because I just can't sit for 2 hours and just sit still and read a book. That don't work for me. So I'm on page 53, and there are, I believe, 244 pages. But yeah, I need to eat something. I'm gonna take a break. Eat, watch a little TV, and get back to reading. So now it looked like they about to start struggling because Wasik, he lost his job, and I told you guys he worked for the government. There was some money being taken, And he honestly didn't know. Of his employees that he was really close to was like his right hand man. So they were like, you didn't have anything to do with it. And, you know, they were suspicious about that. And he, like I said, he honestly did not know. Really, they fired him. And he's the only breadwinner. Ismay, before she had married him, she's like really, really, really pretty. So she was a model, and like her face was on, you know, magazines and billboards. And he would always like ask her, like, are you satisfied with, you know, the life that you have? And she was like, and she's like, absolutely. Like, only thing I need is you and Obeo. At the time, she didn't have her son. She's like, you know, only thing I need is you and Obeo. Like, you know, my previous life, I don't miss that at all. But he always like wondered that in the back of his head. But I mean, now he got his mama, his wife, and his 2 kids to take care of. And yeah. Okay, so we back with grandma again and with her bull crap. So the little baby, he had been sick with a fever, screaming and everything. And of course she's like, I don't trust, you know, no white man's you know, medicine. And they're like, grandma, the doctor is African like you. And she's like, yeah, I don't trust that. So she get like some herbs and stuff like that, boils it, and literally this is a baby screaming on top of his lungs. She like brushes like hot water or something all over his body. This baby is screaming. Okay, you can imagine. So Ismay like, no, you're not, girl. And she literally like has to fight her to get off her baby. And she like grabs her wrist and everything. I mean, Obeah get up, Ismay get grandmother together, okay? Like she physically gets her together. So, you know, Wasik, he already dealing with his job and stuff like that. They're talking about some jail time and all of that. And he already, you know, stressed. So he come home and a grandma like, look what your wife did to me. You already know from the synopsis of the book where, you know, his mother is encouraging him to send Obeo to the, you know, shrine. And it looks like clearly they talking about, you know, that. And again, Obeo is 9 years old.
When I was 7, I was brought to this country and forced into a system I knew nothing about. This is me. I was held as a slave in a religious shrine.
What crime is this child paying for?
Her uncle committed adultery.
Thousands of women across West Africa have lost their freedom because of a practice called trokoshi, and it's still happening.
Wasim tiptoed into Obeo's room and shook her awake. Papa, Obeo yawned, rubbing her eyes. Obeo, get up, we have to go, he whispered. Go where? Where is Mama? Stop asking questions and do as I say. The sternness in his voice snapped Obeo fully awake. Wasim reached into the closet, pulled out a dress, and threw it on her. Please, put this on. Hurry. Oh, man. He called a neighbor, made up a story about an emergency, and asked to borrow their Toyota. He practically shoved Obeo into the back seat, her eyes filled with tears. Where are we going? She blurted out. Where's Mama? Just be quiet, Wasim ordered thinly. Just sit there and be quiet. Nearly 2 hours passed. Wasim pulled the car into a lonely, dark road, stopped, jumped out, and disappeared into the bush without a word. A terrified Obeo curled herself into a ball and watched the light for the monsters. Wasim soon returned, accompanied by a bent old man who glanced briefly at Obeo before pointing in the direction they came. Wasim thanked him, climbed back into the car, turned the vehicle around, and speeded off. Up his teeth in frustration, reached into the car, caught Obeo by the collar of her dress, and yanked her savagely from the car. Wasim never once met her confused and terrified gaze, nor did he say goodbye. He just climbed into the Toyota and pulled off. Papa, Papa, she shouted at Wasim, kept driving. Obeo screamed to the woman, slapped her across the mouth. Stop your crying and fussing. You should be honored to be here, to become Chikazi, to become the wife of the gods. It was 1985. Obeo was 9 years old, 7 months and 3 days old. Can you believe he did that? And didn't tell his wife what's going on. So right now she's just sleeping and don't know what's going on. I could just beat Wasim and that grandmama.
Does she know why she's here?
Yeah, Said, divorced women were frowned upon in Ukimbi society, and divorced women with children were darn near ostracized. Ismay raised her eyes to the mirror and spoke to her reflection. I'm caught between being a good wife and a bad mother. Oh, y'all just right, because that's the real tea, but yeah. I'm looking at my shelf. Let me show you guys her collection. So this is all of her fictional books. And she also writes, which I cannot find it. I found it on Amazon years ago and didn't get it because I was being cheap. I don't know why. But she writes like eroticas, but it's under the pen name Geneva Holiday. And I'm not even gonna front y'all. Look, I like eroticas, okay? I do. Now I have to read them. I can't just, go back to back to back to back and reading those because it can just be too much. But I can read one, once in a while. But I know she does write that. But these are all of her fictional novels. So this is inspired by, what is it called? Emmett Till, the brutality of Emmett Till. We should all know Emmett Till. It's inspired by that. And I know it's set in obviously Money, Mississippi, I believe. I remember when I was reading her whole catalog, like I think 2019, I was so hesitant. I read this one last because if you know the ins and outs of Emmett Till, girl, it's a lot. But this was fantastic. This one, I think this is probably my least favorite, and least I use it very loosely because all her books are just fantastic. But it's The Warmest December. I think the reason why it kind of hit home to me because you have a family, a father that is extremely abusive, physically and verbally abusive, emotionally, and you have a mother, and you have two children, and the young lady, she is she's older now, but she's like going through her life. Her father, who was the one that was horrible, he's in the hospital and he's like basically dying, and she's like, I don't even know why I'm here. I think the reason why it kind of hit home for me, or for a brief time, I actually, when my mom passed, my father got custody of my sister and I was in 3rd grade all the way to half of 7th grade, and it was hell on earth, okay? And I mean, oh Lord, it was a scene where when he would get angry when the kids would go to the refrigerator to get food, every time when he would walk in, he would just yell and stuff like that. And that was the exact same thing that happened with my dad. It was like we couldn't, he just was horrible. I remember I couldn't even use the phone, okay, at all, to call my grandmother, my aunts. When I was reading the stuff that was going on, it was hitting home. I'm like, whew, yeah. So that one's kind of a little hard, but it's a good, it's fantastic. Of course, we got Sugar. I think I have 2 copies of this because Sugar in 2020, it was the 20th anniversary, so they did a re-edition, and they have a really good foreword by Kimberly Elise. She's an actress, and so I had to get this because it was the 20th anniversary, and I just love it. And then here's just like another one. This one I probably will reread and like highlight and stuff and get rid of these tabs because I don't do these tabs no more. I know I have highlighted some stuff, but y'all know I don't like that neon highlighters, so I'm gonna have to get rid of that. But yeah, Loving Donovan, this is fantastic too. Oh my God. For some reason it looks like I want to gravitate and read this again. Out of all these, I always like, the first thing that comes to my mind besides Praise Song for the Butterflies is this one. You have, what is this, a young boy named Donovan, where his home life is a little dubious, and some things happen, and he keeps it to himself, and it kind of reflects when he gets older how he evaluates his relationship, especially with women. Then you have a young girl named Campbell, where she kind of goes through the same thing, where you have parents, like a parent that's unfaithful and all of that, and they don't know that they actually, when they're growing up, they lived like a block away from each other or something. But when they get older, they kind of they start to like see each other, and it's so good. It, oh my goodness, I remember after reading this I was just like it like was that feeling. It was crazy because it's bittersweet. You understand why Donovan did what he did, but it's just like, oh, poor baby, poor baby. I think I'm gonna have to read this next, y'all. All right, sorry guys, my battery died. But I was saying, what was next? Oh, Camilla's Roses. Okay, this kind of reminds me a little bit of is this like a family saga? No, not really. One young woman, I believe her name is Camilla, right? Yeah, where her childhood was, it wasn't about the right. And when she becomes older, she like literally doesn't even talk to her family, stops, doesn't talk to her family, doesn't visit. It's almost like she doesn't even have a family, like they're basically dead. But something comes up. She and this is not a spoiler, she gets cancer, and it looks like that is like runs in the family. So it kind of like catapults her into going back home. No, not only getting answers when it comes to like her cancer diagnosis, but just like, her childhood and lifehood. So throughout the book, you see her reflecting on like, her past life and her present life. Also, her husband doesn't know anything about, her life. I know she's a mother, and this fantastic. And also too, Bernice, if you, all these books, they're not long. Like, they're not long at all. But you still can tell a concise, well-written story where you get exactly what you need. You honestly do. And then all these stories are different. Then you have This Bitter Earth. This is a sequel to Sugar. And Sugar, you remember she left. Well, okay, it's a sequel to Sugar. So Sugar's back. She's back in Arkansas, and some more stuff comes. You see some revelations that have been revealed, and yeah, this one, first sequel, actually was really good. I would say I do prefer the first book, Sugar, but this is still good. It's still good. You guys know sometimes sequels is like, why did just leave it alone? It didn't come to mind even when I read this. This one is glorious. This is about, you would think this would be my favorite because it's inspired by the Harlem Renaissance. You have the main character, Easter Barlett. She is inspired by Nella Larson and Zora Neale Hurston. And with the Nella Larson, you guys know that she only wrote 2 books and like 4 or 5 short stories. She was accused of plagiarism, which she didn't do, and went to court and everything, and they dismissed it because they're like, she didn't do that. But after that, after she wrote I believe some of those short stories, she was like done writing, and she went back to her first occupation, which was nursing, and she never wrote again. And they said like some of her contemporaries, they never saw her again. She like, basically just went home and went to her job and was not really seen. And then with Zora Neale Hurston, after she was accused of what was it? They said, which she didn't do, that she had molested or something, a young boy, which she didn't do because she was in Honduras at the time of, the attacks. But because of that, she ended up leaving Harlem and going to Florida, I believe. And you guys know, towards the end of her life, she was like poor as dirt. She had to take work as a domestic, and I mean, yeah. And so it's based, that character is kind of based on that. It was really good. I have 2 copies of this because I got one from, I think I got both of these. I got both of these from, no, I think I got one of these from a library sale, and then the other, I think I might have ordered on Amazon. So, and I know they have a new edition of this that also came out in 2020, which I should get, because yeah, just to have. Then you have the Book of Harlan. Fantastic. I also have this on audio. When I first read this book, I read it on audio. This also is one of the first books where I cried. I don't normally cry over books. Like, I have like a handful, and this was one, and girl, I was listening to it. while driving back home and was bawling. Okay, oh my gosh, this is like a family saga. Also, too, this talks about Black men or during the Holocaust. I did not know that they were Black people in the Holocaust, and it talks about that. That, oh my goodness, it was a scene. Was it towards the end? Oh, I can't even tell y'all because I'll give it away. But you had people during that time, like some of the what's it called, SS soldiers or whatever, and some of the like the Gestapos and all that. They, you know, after World War II and things like that, they would disguise themselves sometimes. That's all I'm gonna say. And I did not know that. And I remember after reading that, I started looking up things, and I was outdone. Because yeah. And this, like I said, it is tough. It is tough. You see Harlan as a little boy. You see him as a teenager. You see him as a grown man. Oh my goodness. This was, yeah. And Robin Miles, I believe she narrates this on audio. Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah. And this book is only 342 pages. The last one I have and I read is Nowhere is a Place. And this one, I remember, this one was deep too. Oh girl, this one was deep. Sherry is the main character. Yeah. So Sherry is actually her family, they kind of sweep things underneath the rug. And Sherry decides to go to a family reunion, and she decides to drive with her mother, Dumpling, I believe. And while they're, you know, they're not really close, but while, you know, they're doing their road trip, they start to kind of like reminisce about the family. And there was a scene where a woman, clearly a woman, she had been raped, and she was wearing a dress that was blue, and ever since then she could not wear the color blue, look at the color blue. She was even said things like, you know, it's hard to look at the sky because it's the color blue. It was real deep, and I'm like, my goodness, just the, you know, just the thoughts that went on with someone that was sexually abused like that. And it's, I mean, it was deep. This was good though. With, you know, Bernice, she's gonna, you're gonna get serious bits, obviously, but you're also gonna laugh, you're gonna cry, you're gonna be angry, you're gonna get every emotion, like every emotion. I don't care what she writes, I'm getting it. So yeah, that's my little collection. And like literally after going through these, I think I want to read Sugar again. Hey guys, this part always gets me. One night, Seraphine was awakened by the hollow thumps of a plastic pail being set down in the tub. A rush of water followed. She did not know why it was that Obeah chose to bathe herself in that manner, and she did not ask. Instead, she said, "You don't have to bathe like a peasant here, Obeah. You can take a shower, even a bath, if you want." She hoped that the humor in her voice had been clear, but the hurt in Obeah's eyes informed her that it hadn't been, and Seraphine never brought it up again. Now she climbed for her bed and traveled slightly down the carpeted hallway towards the study. She didn't knock and was immediately sorry that she hadn't. Obeah sat naked on the edge of her bed with her scarred back facing the door. Seraphine gasped. Swung around, she saw that her breasts were blemished as well. Truth be told, she had believed that Chikazi was just indentured servitude and not at all like the slavery the Black Americans wailed on and on about. But now she knew that it was indeed the same. Evidence was stamped all across Obeah's body like footmarks. "What did they do to you?" Seraphine stammered. "Nothing, it's fine, it's nothing," Obeah mumbled, slipping her gown over her head. Seraphine walked to her, gently pulled the gown from her hands, and used her eyes to scour every inch of her. There were marks everywhere, behind her thighs, on the top of her feet, on her arms, across her shoulders. "Why didn't you ever say?" Obeah shrugged her shoulders. "Never asked about my life in the shrine." Whew. Yeah. Very deep.
20 years after we were both freed, we recognized each other right away.
Do you know who I am?
Yes.
Who am I?
You are my dear sister. Thank God for your life.
Thank God for your life. We haven't seen each other in so long.
I miss you.
Thank you. I missed you too. I've always thought of you.
After spending 5 years in the shrine, Christiana was also freed after appearing in the 1997 news report.
So I just finished it, and once again, amazing. I mean, this book is just, it's incredible. And like I said, Obeo's like strength and courage, just her willingness to forgive, you know what I mean? I adore this character. And like I was saying before, it's amazing how fiction can really just transport you, and you feel these characters, you honestly do. And Bernice L. McFadden is just, she's a goat. She's a goat in my, eyes. I absolutely adore so many of her books. She is one of my favorite authors, and she will always be like one of my favorite, authors. If you guys have never read a Bernice L. McFadden book, I would highly encourage you to read one. I think I would say start off with Sugar, which is her debut novel, and then just go on. It's like, just read all of them. Oh, just read all of them. Because you will literally get what, and when you read it, you will understand what I'm talking about, like how much I'm gushing over this author. She just is, again, yeah. And this book, just, you get closure. I would say, though, one thing that I would have wanted, but I'm still beyond satisfied, is that daddy sent Obel to that shrine. He needed to be beat for that. I wish we would have gotten just a little bit more from him, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't even want to see him. You know what I mean? Because of what he did to that girl. But yeah, I think that's like the only thing, and that's not even a big deal to me. I just, for myself, would have liked to see him suffer a little bit more. I know it sounds harsh, but yeah. In some parts, it can be a difficult read because, again, with the, what do you call it? The ritual servitude, that's what it's called, which is a form of slavery. Those passages and those scenes can be difficult, but the way she navigates it, it's tolerable. If you are afraid of that, it's not that bad, I promise you. And I also would encourage you guys to, if you don't want to like physically read the book, get the audiobook. Fantastic. So I had a really good time reading this. I also got things done today. Watched 2 episodes of Insecure. I watched the season premiere of The Gilded Age. What else? I cleaned, I cooked, I went to the gym, and was able to read my book in one day. So yeah, guys, that's all I have for you, and I'll be back with more Black books. Bye.
But that's not your life anymore. You're out. Why are you crying? What's wrong?
I'm supposed to not to be. And I feel like a man.
Yes, we were not supposed to be in there, but we are out now. We are out now.
It was amazing to hear about Christiana's life outside of the shrine.
I'm free. I can decide to go to anywhere. Today I can eat. If I say today I'll eat 10, I can eat. If only I have money. I can wear anything at all.
She showed me her tattoo celebrating her reclaimed name.
How does it make you feel when you look at that?
I feel happy.
Why?
Because I I am that I am.
I have received numerous emails from readers who said, I felt like you were standing outside my window, just jotting down everything that happened in my childhood. So that, you know, I'm happy that my stories are affecting people in the way that they do.